The skies above Nevada had never looked so quiet. Not since the fall. Once a bustling country filled with noise, motion, and pride, America had crumbled into near silence. Roads were overgrown, cities deserted, and the few survivors left clung to scraps of civilization. But beneath the lifeless sands of the Mojave Desert, a hidden facility codenamed Outpost Valor still pulsed with energy. Major Evelyn Cross stared at the glowing screens in the command center, arms crossed tightly over her chest. Her eyes scanned the national satellite feed, grainy, glitching frames of ruined cities where shadows moved unnaturally fast. "Still no word from Bravo Unit?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. Captain Roman Vega shook his head. "Nothing. Last signal came from outside what used to be Flagstaff." Then, silence. No distress beacon. No comms. Cross didn't need confirmation. She already knew. Bravo Unit was gone. It had been over a year since the initial outbreak. Rumors said it began in the northeast, others claimed it came from deep within abandoned research labs. No one really knew anymore. What mattered was that the virus had spread faster than wildfire. Within weeks, 80% of the population had either fled, vanished, or changed. The infected didn't rot like the zombies from old horror films. These creatures were faster, smarter in some twisted, instinctual way. They hunted in packs. They didn't just bite, they overwhelmed. Outpost Valor had been built as a failsafe. An underground command and weapons development facility, unknown even to most of the military. It was one of the last places in the country still running coordinated resistance efforts. But morale was low, resources were thin, and every mission to the surface ended in more losses than victories. "Ma'am," said a young corporal, rushing into the room. "You're gonna want to see this. We just intercepted a strange signal, encrypted. Military grade. And it's not ours." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Where from?" The corporal swallowed. "Deep within Zone 13. Zone 13. Once known as Chicago. Now, it was red-marked on every map. No rescue missions. No recon. A no-go zone for months due to high-density infection. That any signal was coming from there, and that it was encrypted military, was beyond alarming. "Patch it in. Now," she ordered. The command room fell into tense silence as static burst over the speakers. Then, just for a second, a voice. "Survivors, hidden, coordinates, need assistance, urgent." The message cut out, distorted. Then it looped. Captain Vega leaned closer to the speaker. "Did that sound like a distress beacon?" "No," Evelyn replied. "It sounded like a trap. But we can't ignore it." He frowned. "You think the infected are smart enough to fake a military transmission?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned toward the mission table and brought up a 3D map of Zone 13. Most buildings were in ruins, but one location pulsed faintly. "Fort Calhoun," she muttered. "Abandoned years before the outbreak. Used to be a joint intel center." Vega gave her a look. "You want to go there? Personally?" Evelyn didn't blink. "Yes. I'm assembling a recon unit. Small team. In and out. If that signal's real, we might have survivors, or lost tech. If it's a trap, we'll find out. Either way. I'm done sitting in the dark." She left the room before anyone could argue. In the armory, Sergeant Nadia Reese checked the clips on her modified pulse rifle. Her face was scarred, one of the few survivors of a ground battle in the Texas zone months earlier. She'd seen more horror than most could process. "Didn't think we'd ever step foot near Zone 13 again," she muttered as Vega entered. "We follow the Major," he said simply. "We go dark, we move fast. No one gets left behind." They were joined by Lucas Hawk-Henders, a drone pilot and tech specialist, and Dr. Asha Varma, a civilian virologist who'd been working with the military since the fall. Asha wasn't a fighter, but her knowledge of the infection made her too valuable to leave behind. By nightfall, the 5 of them were strapped into a retrofitted stealth carrier, ready for deployment. The desert wind howled outside the hangar as the gates opened. Team Valkyrie, Evelyn spoke through the comms. This mission could change everything, or be our last. Stay sharp. And remember, we are not alone out there. As the aircraft vanished into the night sky, below them the infected stirred. Something was waiting in Zone 13. And it had already heard the signal too. Would you like me to continue with Part 2 now? The stealth carrier glided silently over the decaying remains of what was once Chicago. From the sky, it looked like a forgotten war zone, collapsed buildings, burned-out cars, and streets choked with vines and ash. There was no movement, no light. Just the heavy, unnatural silence of a city devoured by the dead. Inside, Team Valkyrie sat in silence, gear secured and nerves tight. ETA 2 minutes, Hawk reported from the cockpit. Dropping us 6 blocks from Fort Calhoun. That's the safest open zone I could find without attracting attention. Copy that, Evelyn replied. Her eyes didn't leave the map on her wrist display. Once we're down, we go radio silent. Hawk, keep the bird running. If we get compromised, we'll need a fast extraction. Reese checked her rifle one last time and glanced at Dr. Asha Varma. The scientist was unusually quiet, clutching a small metal case of equipment like her life depended on it. You ever been this close to a red zone? Reese asked. Asha shook her head. Closest I ever got was 5 miles out. I studied infected samples, not infected cities. Stick close, Reese said, her tone somewhere between protective and warning. This place doesn't forgive mistakes. With a soft thud, the carrier landed in a deserted plaza choked with dust and debris. The team disembarked quickly, fanning out with practiced precision. The wind carried a faint scent of rot, stale and metallic. As the carrier rose into the air behind them, Hawk's voice crackled briefly in their earpieces. You're on your own. Good luck. And then, silence. They moved fast through narrow alleys, avoiding open streets, every step calculated. Fort Calhoun stood 3 stories tall and half buried under the rubble of surrounding structures. Its reinforced walls had surprisingly held up, though signs of fire and struggle covered its outer shell. Doors are sealed, Vega observed, running his hand along the scorched metal entrance. No signs of recent activity. Then how is the signal still transmitting? Evelyn asked aloud. Asha stepped forward and pointed to a nearby vent structure. If the original systems are still intact, someone could have patched a signal through the sublevels. Reese nodded. We go in quiet. Flashlights only. No loud shots unless we're cornered. Inside, the fort was a tomb. Dust clung to every surface. Bullet holes lined the walls. Bloodstains painted the floor like old shadows. But there were no bodies, just gear, empty boots, and signs of a hasty retreat. Something came through here, Vega muttered, his flashlight catching deep scratch marks along the walls. They descended into the lower levels, stepping past overturned tables and broken equipment. That's when Evelyn noticed it, a faint blinking red light at the far end of the hallway. A console still running. Cover me, she ordered. She reached the terminal and began tapping commands. It responded sluggishly, but then a distorted video flickered onto the screen. A man in tattered military gear appeared. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. This is Lieutenant Harris. Fort Calhoun is compromised. We held as long as we could. The infected, some of them, they're not what we thought. The video glitched. When it resumed, Harris was screaming. They changed. They learned. They're not just following scent or sound, they're thinking. Planning. One of them, it spoke. The feed cut out. For a moment, no one spoke. That can't be right, Asha whispered. The virus doesn't allow for higher brain. Then explain this, Reese interrupted, pointing down the hallway. At the far end of the corridor stood a figure. Pale. Still. Not moving. It had the posture of a person, but its eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Evelyn raised her hand slowly. Don't engage. Back out, now. But it was too late. With a sudden inhuman shriek, the creature lunged forward, far faster than anything they'd encountered before. Its body twisted unnaturally as it raced toward them, arms outstretched, mouth open wide in a soundless scream. Rhys fired first, 3 suppressed shots straight into its chest. It stumbled but didn't fall. Vega tackled Asha back just as the creature crashed into the group. The hallway exploded into chaos, blows, snarls, flashes of steel and light. Evelyn managed to unload a final round into its skull. The thing dropped instantly, twitching once before going still. Heavy breathing filled the corridor. What the hell was that? Vega gasped. Mutated strain, Asha said breathlessly, scanning the corpse. Maybe even conscious. This changes everything. Evelyn wiped blood from her cheek. We're not just fighting an infection anymore. We're fighting evolution. She turned back to the terminal. And saw something new. A blinking message. We see you. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. The blinking words on the terminal sent a chill through the air. We see you. It wasn't a pre-recorded message. It was live. Evelyn took a slow step back from the console, her breath steady, eyes sharp. Someone, or something, is inside the system. That message was typed in real time. Rhys raised her rifle again, scanning the shadows. They're watching us. We need to move. Vega crouched beside the twitching corpse of the infected creature. Unlike the typical undead, this one had armor plating fused to its skin, metal and flesh bonded like an unnatural experiment. Its jaw was reinforced with bone plating. The eyes still glowed faintly, even in death. They're not just evolving, Vega said grimly. They're being modified. Asha knelt beside him, opening her case and pulling out a scanner. These implants, they're military grade. Could be nanotech. We never authorized this level of testing. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. Then someone did. Suddenly, Hawk's voice crackled to life in their earpieces, static-filled, panicked. Command, this is Hawk, carrier is under attack. They came out of nowhere, fast, not normal infected. Repeat, I'm losing altitude. The comms cut. Damn it. Evelyn slammed her fist against the wall. We have to assume Hawk's down. Exfil is off the table. So what now? Vega asked. We push forward. That signal was meant to lure someone here, but it also means someone's maintaining this facility. We find the source. We find whoever sent it. And we find out what they're doing to these creatures. The team regrouped and moved deeper into Fort Calhoun. The narrow halls became tighter, darker, the air damp with decay. Strange symbols were spray-painted on the walls, loops and spirals, some in English, others in an unfamiliar language. They reached a sealed blast door marked Level B3, restricted access. Evelyn placed her palm on the security scanner. To their surprise, the door hissed open. Someone kept the system running, Asha said, eyes wide. That's not possible without human maintenance. The room beyond was unlike the rest of the fort. Clean. Sterile. Bright white lights flickered overhead. Tables held vials of glowing liquid. Cryopods lined the walls, some still sealed, others shattered. One pod was still humming. Inside was a child, maybe 12. Breathing. Alive. Eyes closed. No visible injuries. Is that a survivor? Rhys whispered. Asha rushed forward, checking vitals. Stable. No infection markers. But their DNA profile is off the charts. Elevated neural activity. Accelerated cell regeneration. Before anyone could process that, the door behind them slammed shut. Lights flickered. A distorted voice echoed through unseen speakers. You shouldn't have come here. Vega spun around, weapon ready. Who is this? Show yourself. The voice was calm. Male. calculated. You think the outbreak was an accident? No, it was a design flaw. A rushed attempt at creating something better. Humanity's next stage. But the early batches, unstable. Savage. You made this? Evelyn growled. You turned our people into monsters? I corrected a broken species. And the next generation will not just survive. It will rule. Where are you? She demanded. I'm everywhere, the voice replied. And I'm watching. A sharp hiss filled the room. The sealed cryopod began to unlock. Asha stepped back in alarm. The child opened his eyes. Glowing yellow. He didn't scream. Didn't panic. He simply stood up and looked at them, calmly. His skin was pale, his veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. Then he spoke. You don't belong here. Everyone froze. He walked past them, bare feet silent on the floor. Reese instinctively raised her rifle, but Evelyn held out a hand. Don't. Not yet. The boy walked to the console on the far wall and pressed a single button. A hologram flickered to life, schematics of other bases, labs, bunkers. Each was marked with a red X. Except one, Site V1. Located deep in the Rocky Mountains. That's where the next phase begins, the boy said, voice emotionless. You can't stop it. Evelyn stepped forward slowly. Help us. Tell us what they're planning. The boy looked at her, tilting his head. I was designed not to help, he said. But I am curious. The lights flickered again. This time, alarms blared in the distance, warning tones. Vega turned toward the sealed blast door. We've got company. Dozens of red dots appeared on the motion sensor. Reese gritted her teeth. Looks like they sent a welcoming party. Evelyn looked at the boy. If you want to see what makes humanity worth saving, now's the time to decide. The boy blinked once. And then the wall behind them slid open, revealing a hidden exit tunnel. This way, he said. Let me know when you're ready for part 4. Alarms screamed through the halls of Fort Calhoun, echoing like a countdown to doom. Evelyn didn't hesitate. Everyone move, now! The boy with glowing yellow eyes stood beside the open tunnel, calm as ever, while the rest of the team rushed into the narrow shaft lit only by flickering red emergency lights. Vega stayed back a second longer, tossing a timed explosive toward the sealed door. As he ducked in, it slammed shut behind him. Boom! The explosion roared just as the first wave of mutated infected began to batter the door from the outside. The walls trembled, dust raining down from the ceiling. Reese took point, flashlight scanning ahead. Where does this tunnel go? It connects to an old service line, the boy said. It leads to the surface, eventually. But we're not alone down here. How comforting, Vega muttered. As they pressed forward, the tunnel narrowed, pipes lining the walls and ceiling. The deeper they went, the more unnatural things became. Web-like growths coated the walls. Strange symbols had been scratched into the metal and claw marks. The air grew hotter, fouler. This place was turned into a nest, Asha whispered. They've been living here. No, the boy corrected her. They've been waiting. Suddenly, movement. Reese swung her rifle left. A pale figure crouched at the edge of the shadows, growling low. It didn't charge, it followed. Watching. Then another joined it. And another. Fall back into formation. Evelyn ordered. No sudden moves. If they attack, we shoot to kill. The creatures didn't strike. They crept closer, eerily coordinated, staying just beyond the light. They're hurting us, Vega realized. Pushing us somewhere. Evelyn turned to the boy. Can you stop them? No, he said, flatly. They don't answer to me. Before anyone could respond, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber, a forgotten sewer junction repurposed as a hive. Bioluminescent fungus covered the walls. The smell of rot was thick. And at the center stood something enormous. At least 8 feet tall, its body was a hideous blend of human muscle, armored plating, and black sinew. Where its face should have been, there was only a jagged maw lined with bone spikes. Its eyes were small, calculating. A mutated alpha. It let out a low growl that made the floor vibrate. "Light it up!" Evelyn shouted. Bullets tore through the air as the team opened fire. The creature roared and charged, swinging a massive arm into the nearest pillar. Concrete exploded. Reese dove out of the way as debris rained down. Asha scrambled behind cover, trying to protect her equipment. "We can't kill this thing with bullets alone." Vega tossed a thermal grenade. It landed under the beast's feet, boom. Fire engulfed it. The alpha screamed in rage and pain, but kept coming. Then, from behind, the glowing-eyed boy stepped forward. He raised his hand, and for the first time, they saw what he truly was. His veins flared gold. The lights flickered violently. A pulse of energy rippled through the chamber. The surrounding infected screamed and fled into the shadows. Even the alpha staggered back, momentarily confused. "They fear him," Asha whispered. Evelyn seized the chance. "Now! Hit it with everything you've got." As the boy kept the others at bay with his presence, the team coordinated their final assault. Vega hit the beast's legs with concussive rounds. Reese and Evelyn lit up its upper torso with incendiary ammo. Asha, with trembling hands, pulled a vial from her case, experimental neurotoxin, and tossed it into the creature's mouth just as it lunged. The alpha collapsed mid-charge, convulsing violently. It let out one last shriek and fell still, thick black blood oozing from its mouth and ears. Silence. Just the team's heavy breathing and the hum of the strange chamber. The boy turned to Evelyn, his eyes dimming slightly. This was only a guardian. There are others, smarter. Stronger. "What are they planning?" she asked. "They're gathering near Site V1. The virus has stabilized. The next phase is awakening." "And what is that?" Asha asked softly. The boy looked up at her. "A world where the living no longer rule." They continued down the tunnel, emerging finally into the forest outside the ruins of Fort Calhoun. Dawn was beginning to break, but the light didn't feel like hope. It felt like a countdown. Vega radioed command. "This is Valkyrie team. We've got survivors. One is different. Fort Calhoun is compromised. Recommend immediate recon lockdown of Site V1. Command's reply crackled back through static. Copy that, Valkyrie. But you need to hear this. 3 bases just went dark simultaneously. One of them was Site V1. Evelyn looked at the others, jaw tight. Then we're already too late. Snow fell in thick, silent sheets over the Rocky Mountains, burying the world in cold silence. But beneath that snowy calm, something terrible stirred. The Blackbird transport jet cut through the clouds, carrying Valkyrie team toward the last known coordinates of Site V1, the hidden base now gone dark. Inside the aircraft, the atmosphere was heavy. Evelyn sat near the cockpit, staring at the map. 3 bases down in one night. Simultaneously. That's not a coincidence. No communication. No distress signal. Just silence, Reese muttered, checking her weapon again. Asha glanced toward the child, who sat calmly, his hands folded in his lap, eyes watching the clouds outside the window. Since Fort Calhoun, he hadn't said much. But his presence was a constant reminder that the world had changed. That something far beyond the usual undead chaos was unfolding. "I ran scans on him," Asha said finally. "His DNA isn't just modified, it's rewritten. He's not human anymore. But not fully one of them either." "He said they made him," Vega added. "Question is, why?" The boy looked up, as if hearing them without needing ears. "I was created as a messenger. A bridge. But you weren't meant to find me yet." Evelyn walked over to him, crouching down. "Then tell me the truth. What is Site V1 really? Another lab?" He blinked slowly. "No. It's the lab. The source. Where it all began. The virus was born there, and something else is about to awaken. Before Evelyn could press him further, the pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. Approaching target. Site V1 coordinates match with an old Cold War facility, officially decommissioned. Prepare for Halo drop, there's no safe landing zone. The team readied themselves. As the rear hatch opened, wind and snow roared inside the aircraft. One by one, Valkyrie jumped into the storm. They dropped into darkness. The facility loomed from the mountain like a forgotten tomb, half buried in ice, surrounded by broken towers and twisted antennas. The front gate was shattered, as if something massive had forced its way inside. This place looks like it's been dead for decades, Vega said as he scanned the area. Then why are there fresh footprints in the snow? Reese pointed out. The trail led them through the main entrance, where broken lights flickered and ancient metal groaned. Inside, Site V1 was eerily intact, preserved like a museum of forgotten horrors. Hallways stretched in perfect condition, though frost coated every surface. Suddenly, a sound, a faint mechanical whirring. Evelyn raised a hand. Wait. From a side room, a humanoid figure emerged. At first glance, it looked like a man in armor. But as it moved into the light, they saw the truth. A corpse. Preserved. Half machine. Eyes glowing red. An automated guard, built from the body of a fallen soldier. Hold your fire, Asha whispered. It hasn't detected us yet. But then it turned. And spoke. Biologicals detected. Purge protocol initiated. Move! Evelyn shouted. The creature opened fire with a mounted energy weapon. The team dove for cover as beams tore through the hallway. Vega rolled behind a support pillar and lobbed a shock grenade. It exploded with a pulse that sent the machine crashing to the floor, twitching. Reese stepped up and emptied a burst of bullets into its core. Sparks flew. The body stopped moving. What in hell was that? She gasped. Asha knelt by it. An old military drone, only this one's been recycled. Someone's using dead soldiers as hosts for automated tech. They're building an army, Evelyn realized. Not just undead, but cybernetically enhanced ones. The boy stepped into the room, staring at the fallen drone. This is just the outer ring, he said. Deeper inside, is where it all truly begins. They pressed forward, deeper into Site V1. Doors slid open with retinal scans. Evelyn's military clearance somehow still worked, an unsettling sign that someone high up wanted them in. Wanted them to see. In the heart of the complex, they reached a control room, its walls lined with surveillance feeds. Every monitor showed a different region. Cities overrun. Bunkers breached. Infected moving in patterns. They're not mindless, Vega whispered. They're coordinated. On one screen, an underground chamber showed a vast cocoon-like structure, pulsating with black veins. Creatures moved around it like ants tending a queen. The boy walked forward, eyes fixed on the screen. That is the hive. The first true alpha. Not a mutation, an engineered leader. It's what they've been working toward for years. And when it hatches? Evelyn asked. The boy turned slowly, voice almost sad. Then the real war begins. Let me know when you're ready for part 6. The surveillance room fell into a cold silence. No one dared to move. Every screen pulsed with images of chaos, cities buried in undead swarms, military outposts overrun, and one camera fixed on that pulsating cocoon, the so-called hive. Reese stared at it, unease written across her face. That thing's alive, breathing. No, the boy said softly. It's not alive. Not yet. But it's dreaming. What the hell does that even mean? Vega snapped, gripping his rifle tighter. The boy's golden eyes glinted. It's linked to all of them, every infected, every drone. It thinks while it sleeps. And soon, it will wake. Suddenly, a siren blared. The monitors glitched, several went black. One feed flashed to life, displaying a corridor within Site V1. The lights were dim, but figures moved, dozens of them. Infected in black and bio-armor, unlike anything the team had seen before. Not mindless. Not slow. They're here, Evelyn growled. And they're guarding the hive. The screen shifted again, revealing something worse, a countdown. 29 minutes and 12 seconds. A timer. And it was moving. Asha's fingers flew over the nearby console. It's a launch sequence. Something in this base is set to activate, and soon. What are they launching? Reese asked. But no one had the answer yet. The boy's eyes didn't leave the screen. It's not a launch. It's a signal. Once it reaches 0, every infected worldwide will respond. Not just to instinct, but to command. You're saying this hive queen can control all of them like soldiers? Vega asked. She already does, he replied. But right now, her influence is limited. Once the signal goes out, she won't need to stay hidden. She'll become the new intelligence of the undead. Evelyn turned away from the monitors. Then we shut it down. Asha quickly traced the source of the countdown. Central core chamber. It's deep below the facility, heavily protected. We'll have to fight through. Evelyn nodded. Vega, you take point. Reese, secure the rear. Asha, stick close to me and the boy. Whatever's waiting down there, we end it, before that timer hits 0. Underground access shaft, 24 minutes and 9 seconds. The elevator shaft was dead, power had been rerouted. The team descended by cable, one at a time, rappelling into the dark. The further they went, the colder it got. The walls began to shimmer with black, web-like veins, pulsing faintly with a sickly glow. This entire place is infected, Asha murmured. The hive's biomass has spread through the infrastructure. As they reached the lower chamber, the walls opened into a cavernous vault. It had once been a cryogenic slab, now twisted into something organic. Machines merged with flesh. Pods lined the walls, and inside them, human bodies. Are they alive? Reese whispered. Not anymore, the boy said. They're vessels. Backup minds for the hive. Stored memories. Old test subjects. Soldiers, scientists. All part of the evolution. Vega approached a console at the far end of the room. The countdown flashed red. 19 minutes and 36 seconds. I've got something. Asha called out. I can overload the signal conduit. Force a feedback loop. But I'll need time. You've got 10 minutes, Evelyn replied. Suddenly, the hive reacted. The cocoon stirred on the far side of the chamber. Black liquid oozed from its sides, forming long tendrils that whipped across the floor. Out of the shadows came the guardians, armored infected unlike anything before. Tall, swift, with sharpened limbs and obsidian skin that reflected the pulsing red of the chamber. Their eyes burned with artificial light, part undead, part machine. Here we go! Vega shouted, unloading rounds. The guardians moved with terrifying speed. One leaped through the air, landing in front of Asha. Reese tackled at mid-air, both crashing to the ground. Finish the upload. Reese shouted, firing point-blank into the thing's skull. Vega tossed a flash charge, temporarily blinding 3 others. Evelyn fought with brutal precision, her blades slicing through sinew and tech. Meanwhile, the cocoon cracked. A faint cry echoed from inside. She's waking, the boy yelled. Hurry! Asha's fingers flew across the console, sweat pouring down her face. Almost there. 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Then, a piercing shriek tore through the chamber. The hive queen's mind had opened. Everyone felt it, a crushing mental pressure like nails scraping across their skulls. She's speaking, Vega muttered, grabbing his head. Reese collapsed, nose bleeding. The boy stepped forward. His body glowed with golden light. You're not ready, he said to the hive. They still have a choice. He raised both hands, and unleashed a wave of psychic force that slammed into the cocoon. The hive screamed in rage, the tendrils flailing. The countdown console exploded in sparks. Signal interrupted. Timer offline. Asha fell back. It worked. We stopped the signal. The cocoon writhed in fury, then began to collapse inward, imploding with a screech that echoed through the entire base. Silence. Then, the lights dimmed. The hive was dormant. But not dead. Smoke and flickering red lights filled the lower vault as the team stared at the withering mass that had once been the hive cocoon. It pulsed weakly, its once glowing core darkening. The signal had been interrupted. The broadcast shut down. But the tension in the air remained thick, uneasy. "We shut it down," Asha whispered, her voice trembling as she looked at the damaged console. "The signal's dead." "For now," Evelyn muttered, scanning the surroundings. "But that thing isn't." They all turned toward the half-collapsed cocoon. It still twitched, leaking black fluid. No longer glowing, but not gone. "She's wounded," the boy said quietly. "Not destroyed. She's gone deeper, hiding her mind elsewhere." "Can she recover?" Reese asked. The boy nodded. "Yes. Unless we destroy the root system, the core nest." "Where's that?" Vega asked. The boy looked up, as if he could see through the mountain itself. "Below us. Beneath the earth." That cocoon was just a node, a voice. "Her true body lies under the mountain. If we don't kill it there, she'll return. And stronger." Reese slammed a fresh clip into her rifle. "Then what are we waiting for?" A loud groan echoed through the walls. The facility was beginning to collapse. Whatever psychic force the Hive Queen had used was tearing the structure apart from within. Panels burst, walls cracked, and a deep rumble signaled something big shifting below. "She's trying to bury herself," Evelyn said, eyes narrowing. "To heal, hibernate, and wait." "We have to go deeper," Asha said. "Before she seals herself in completely." Subtunnel access, 60 meters below surface. The team descended into the mountain's sublayers via a collapsed tunnel, moving fast, weapons ready. Black veins now covered the walls, thicker and more alive than before. Strange whispers echoed, not voices, but sensations. As if the Hive Queen were still watching, still listening. Suddenly, the path split into 3 tunnels. Each one dark, pulsating with faint light. "This isn't natural," Vega said. "She's reshaped the mountain." "She's building a nest," the boy said. "Luring us in." Evelyn took charge. "We stick together. No splitting up. Follow the strongest current of biomass, that'll lead to her core." They moved cautiously, navigating the winding organic corridors. Strange growths lined the walls, some pulsing like lungs, others like beating hearts. Inside some, they could see things, faces. Human faces, frozen in horror. "Test subjects," Asha whispered. "She's absorbing memories, building intelligence." Ahead, a massive door of bone and metal blocked their way. The boy stepped forward, placing his hand against it. It opened silently, revealing a vast chamber unlike anything they'd seen before. The nest heart. They stepped into what felt like the center of the earth. A massive cavern stretched out before them, glowing with sickly green light. Hanging from the ceiling was the true body of the Hive Queen, a monstrous, spider-like mass of nerves, tendrils, and bone. Her face was human-like, but wrong. Twisted. Beautiful and terrible. She was watching them. "So this is it," Reese whispered. "Not yet," Evelyn said. "She knows we're here. She's waiting." As if on cue, the floor shook, and out of the shadows came her guardians. Not just the cyber zombies from before, but something worse. Mutated hybrids. Human frames twisted with metal exoskeletons and extra limbs, some sprouting wings, others slithering on fused bone. "Hold the line!" Evelyn shouted. A brutal battle began. Gunfire echoed in the chamber as Valkyrie fought back wave after wave of monstrosities. Asha worked quickly, rigging explosives around the support columns that fed into the Hive Queen's body. "I need 5 minutes," she screamed. "You've got 2. Vega yelled, slashing down a creature with his combat blade. The Hive Queen shrieked, not a sound, but a presence. Minds shattered. Reese dropped to her knees, blood pouring from her ears. The boy stepped forward again, hands glowing. "I can hold her, for a while." He raised his arms, projecting psychic energy that froze the queen mid-shriek. For a moment, everything stilled. "She's weak, but still too strong to destroy by force," he gasped. "You must collapse this chamber. Crush her." Asha gave a thumbs up. Charges planted. Evelyn grabbed the detonator. "Let's end this." But the queen spoke. A voice, clear, beautiful, and chilling, filled their minds. "Kill me now, and another will rise. This world has already forgotten how to survive without me. I am the future." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Then you're a future we'll bury." She hit the detonator. A series of explosions rocked the cavern. Support columns collapsed. The ceiling groaned. The Hive Queen shrieked again, her tendrils flailing as the chamber caved in around her. The team ran, ducking through collapsing tunnels, barely making it out as the mountain imploded behind them. They emerged onto the surface, gasping for air as dawn broke over the snow-covered peaks. The hive nest was gone. But as they looked back at the smoking crater, no one spoke. Because deep down, they knew she wasn't the only one. The sun had barely crested the horizon when the dust settled over the collapsed mountain. Where once stood the heart of the Hive Queen's power, there was now only scorched earth and a smoldering crater. The Valkyrie team stood in silence, breathing heavily, eyes fixed on the ruins. Reese dropped to her knees, hands planted in the snow, blood still crusted near her ears. "We actually did it." "No," Evelyn replied coldly. "We survived it. Doesn't mean it's over." The boy turned away from the crater and looked north. "There are others like her. Smaller, weaker. But they'll grow." Vega grunted. "So she wasn't the last?" "She was the first," the boy said, "but not the only one." As if in response, static crackled on their comms. For the first time in days, a voice came through, a human voice. "This is Northern Outpost Delta. Repeat, this is Delta Base. We are receiving your signal. Identify yourself." Evelyn snatched her radio. "This is Valkyrie Team, code Black Clearance. Hive Queen neutralized. Survivors requesting evac." A pause. "Valkyrie, confirm you are secure and uninfected." "There's been developments." Evelyn frowned. "What kind of developments?" Another pause. Then, the signal the Queen broadcast? It wasn't just psychic. It was digital. Viral. It jumped systems, and it reached beyond America. 2 days later, Delta Base. The Valkyrie team arrived at Delta Base, hidden within a snow-covered plateau in the Rockies. Unlike Outpost Genesis, this facility was alive with activity, scientists, soldiers, drones, and even civilians. But the mood was tense. Something had changed. They were immediately escorted to the command center where General Petra Rourke, the highest-ranking surviving officer in NORAD's shadow chain, stood over a hollow map glowing with red zones. "We got lucky," Rourke began without greeting. "Your destruction of the Queen disrupted 70% of the connected hives in North America. Most of the smart infected went dormant, others went wild and aimless." "Lucky?" Evelyn asked. The general turned the map. "Unlucky is the fact that several rogue AI networks, ones we didn't even know were infected, got activated when she died. Somewhere during the war, the Hive protocol got into our satellites, drones, even some old abandoned nuclear silos. Something hijacked them." Asha's eyes widened. "You're saying the Hive spread into machines?" "Not just machines," Rourke said grimly. "Entire defense grids. She pointed to a new red dot flashing in the Pacific. This morning, a dormant U.S. Navy Ghost fleet, mothballed ships, turned on by themselves, heading for the west coast under autonomous control. Vega swore. She's dead, and still causing damage. No, the boy interrupted. She left pieces of herself, like seeds. She planned for this. The hive thinks long-term. We kill one head, and another sprouts from somewhere unexpected. Reese looked around the room, tension building again. So what now? We just keep chasing ghosts? Now, Rourke said, we strike before the next hive matures. We track down the rogue signals, trace their origins, and eliminate them before they rebuild. She turned to the boy. We need you. You're the only one who can hear them. The boy nodded slowly. But you need to know, one of them has already found something worse than a signal. Everyone turned to him. She found a body, he whispered. One of the early experiments. A host more powerful than the Queen. Evelyn's face hardened. You're telling us there's something even worse than what we just killed? Yes, the boy said. And it's already waking up. That night, secure quarters. Later, Evelyn sat alone, staring at her reflection in the glass. Her face was covered in scars, old and new. She barely recognized herself. The others were resting, or pretending to. No one could sleep anymore. A knock. It was Asha. We did something impossible, Ev. We stopped her. That has to mean something. It means we bought time, Evelyn replied. Time for what? I don't know. Asha hesitated, then sat beside her. What if this isn't a war we can win? Evelyn looked her dead in the eyes. Then we make sure we don't lose it either. Elsewhere, a ship in the Pacific. A rusted battleship, long forgotten and abandoned, floated aimlessly through thick fog. But deep within its darkened hull, screens flickered on. Black cables pulsed along the walls. Something moved in the shadows. A humanoid figure stood, eyes glowing faint green. The Hive Queen's voice echoed, distant, faint, but unmistakably hers. My death is only a door. And from the ashes, the future will crawl. The battleship that drifted through the Pacific mist was once the USS Vindicator, decommissioned decades ago and thought to be useless. But now it hummed with unnatural life. Below deck, machinery stitched together with rotting tendons and black tech pulsed with green energy. And at the center of it all, the figure, the host, was awakening. Its skin was pale and cracked like old porcelain, yet its movements were precise, mechanical, practiced. Its eyes weren't human. They glowed, scanning old logs and control panels as the hive's signal continued whispering in its mind. Above the bridge, a new signal pulsed through a satellite array retrofitted with bone and wire. It wasn't just broadcasting, it was calling. And things were beginning to answer. Delta Base Command Center, 48 hours later. The team stood around a digital map as General Rourke laid out the next mission. The red marker had moved, straight toward the west coast. We confirmed it this morning, Rourke said. The Vindicator is under hive control. But it's not just drifting. It's actively navigating, and changing course every time we try to intercept it. Vega grunted. It's thinking. Worse, Evelyn added. It's learning. Dr. Tarek, a hive researcher recently extracted from an East Coast lab, stepped forward. The original Queen's consciousness was partially distributed through neural code fragments. When she died, the code didn't disappear, it migrated. This host was likely one of the early super soldier experiments, a hybrid prototype. Evelyn folded her arms. So now we're fighting an intelligent zombie with military-grade AI and access to naval weaponry? Tarek hesitated, then said, and nuclear warheads. The Vindicator had 6 experimental payloads stored in cold lock. They were never fully dismantled. Silence. Then Asha said it, if that thing makes landfall, we won't be dealing with infection. We'll be dealing with extinction. Inside the Vindicator. The host stood before a cracked mirror in the captain's quarters. It examined its form, half human, half machine, wholly unnatural. Through its eyes, the hive saw everything: land masses, bases, scattered human settlements. It processed military codes, intercepted radio chatter, and decrypted human emotions. It was preparing for war. Behind it, several humanoid shapes emerged, former sailors now converted, their bodies riddled with hive wiring and marine armor fused to flesh. These were the drowned, a new strain. Silent, tactical, and immune to most human weapons. The host raised one hand. Let the next wave begin. Delta Base, Situation Room. As the team prepped for departure, Evelyn handed the boy a fresh headset. You said you could still feel her, she asked. Can you feel it? He closed his eyes. It's not like her. It's colder. More focused. There's no hunger, no rage. Just calculation. Like it's solving a puzzle. What puzzle? Us. Reese tightened the strap on her tactical vest. So what's the plan? General Rourke tapped the map. The Vindicator is projected to hit land near Crescent Bay in 36 hours. We'll deploy Valkyrie and Alpha teams via stealth transport. You'll board the ship, eliminate the host, and disable its guidance systems. Drone backup will follow, assuming the EMP net holds. And if it doesn't? Vega asked. Rourke stared at him. Then don't fail. Aboard the Blackbird transport, en route to target. The wind howled outside the stealth VTOL, but inside, the team sat in tense silence. Evelyn checked her rifle, her blade, her sidearm, then again. Every second counted. This wasn't just another hive nest. This was the last line. Asha broke the silence. What happens if we can't kill it? We kill the ship, Vega answered. Sink the whole damn thing. And take ourselves with it? Reese asked. If that's what it takes. Evelyn finally spoke. We didn't survive this long just to die in the ocean. We finish this. We take that monster down. We give the world back a fighting chance. The boy stared at the floor, eyes unfocused. She knows you're coming, he whispered. She's waiting. Approaching the Vindicator, just before dawn. The Blackbird dropped low, hovering above the fog as the Vindicator emerged below, its hull covered in barnacles, blood, and strange new growths. It looked less like a ship and more like a floating creature. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot called. As the back ramp opened, Evelyn led the team into the mist. One by one, they dropped onto the deck. They landed in silence. The ship was still. Too still. Then they heard it, a low hum, like a breath held too long. And then the screaming began. Let me know when you're ready for Part 10, the finale. The screams echoed through the fog-drenched deck of the USS Vindicator, inhuman, guttural, unnatural. Evelyn signaled the team to take positions. The moment their boots hit the biofused metal, they knew this was no ordinary mission. The ship breathed. It pulsed beneath them like a living thing, metal and muscle fused into one horrifying creation. Vega swept left, flanking toward the bridge. Asha and Reese took point near the communications tower, scanning for movement. Evelyn motioned to the boy, keeping him close. He was silent, but his eyes were darting. She's in there, he whispered. Waiting. No sooner had he spoken than the first drone attacked. Once men, now clad in soaked naval gear and hive armor, burst from the hatchways. Their movements were deliberate, fast, coordinated. Not like zombies, like train killers. Their eyes glowed faint green as they swarmed toward the team. Engage! Evelyn shouted. Gunfire cracked through the fog. Reese rolled under one attacker, slamming a blade into its spine. It didn't scream, it just twitched. Vega fired a short burst, dropping two more, but they got up again seconds later. They're reinforced, he barked. Armor's fused to the bone. Evelyn drew her knife, ducked beneath a swinging fist, and jammed the blade into one drowned's exposed throat. It fell gurgling. Aim for the soft spots. The boy stood in the center, hands on his ears, trembling. She's inside all of them. Speaking. Directing. She knows every move we make. Reese shouted, then it's time we make one she doesn't expect. Bridge level, Vindicator's control room. They burst through the heavy doors into the ship's bridge. The place was unrecognizable. Monitors covered in black tendrils displayed maps, radiation levels, and coordinates counting down to launch protocols. In the center stood the host. It turned slowly. Its body was massive now, part machine, part dead flesh, armored in hive plating, and wired into the ship itself. The Hive Queen's echo lived on through it. You came, it said in a voice that wasn't entirely human. Evelyn leveled her rifle. And we're ending this. The host raised one arm. From the floor, 3 drowned emerged like ghosts. Evelyn didn't hesitate, 2 shots, both hits to the head. Reese followed with a flashbang, sending the others staggering. Vega charged the host. It grabbed him midair and threw him across the room like a rag doll. Vega slammed into a wall and collapsed, unconscious. You fight to stop the future, the host hissed, voice vibrating like static. But we are the future. No, Evelyn said, stepping forward. You're a mistake we're about to erase. The boy clutched his head. There's a signal beneath the control deck, feeding it. If we cut the connection, it'll lose command. Reese nodded. I'll do it. Buy me 60 seconds. She sprinted out through a side hatch. Below deck, core control. Reese tore through the narrow hallway as hive growth reached for her. The walls rippled like skin. She dropped down a hatch and landed near the main cable trunk, thick black coils pulsing with green light. The control node sat in the center, a grotesque fusion of steel and flesh, still bearing a Navy logo barely visible beneath the grime. She pulled 2 charges from her belt, placed them carefully, and armed the detonator. Then the ship screamed. A tendril whipped out, slicing across her leg. She fell, dragging herself up with gritted teeth. Just as another tendril struck, boom, a shot rang out. Vega limped in, rifle smoking. Thought you could use a hand. Reese smiled through the pain. I had it covered. Bridge, final clash. On the bridge, Evelyn went toe-to-toe with the host. It was strong, inhumanly so, but it lacked unpredictability. She danced around its strikes, cutting wires, slashing limbs. The boy stood behind, whispering, channeling static. The host faltered. Signal's dying, it growled. You're too late. No, Evelyn said, you're too slow. Boom. The explosives went off. The deck below shook. The ship's glow dimmed. Systems powered down. The host screamed, sparks shooting from its chest. Evelyn fired one last shot, straight into its exposed core. The host stumbled, collapsed, and stayed down. The Vindicator began to tilt. The sea rushed in. Extraction now. Evelyn shouted into her comms. Later, Delta Base, 2 days after. They stood before the wreckage footage on screen. The Vindicator had sunk beneath the waves, taking the last piece of the Hive Queen with it. General Rourke faced the Valkyrie team. You've ended the central hive. Without it, the scattered strains will die off or go feral. We've begun reclaiming cities. We owe that to you. Evelyn looked at the boy. He stared quietly, then finally said, she's gone. I can't hear her anymore. Rourke nodded. Good. But we stay alert. Because if we've learned anything, it's that monsters don't stay buried forever. Final scene, unknown shoreline. In the dark surf of a ruined coastline, a piece of hive armor washed ashore. It twitched, just once. A green spark blinked. Then faded. For now. Let me know if you'd like a recap, visual thumbnails, or a voiceover script version of the full story.